Hey, everybody, this is Chris Bowers, and this is the AgentXcel podcast. And today I'm going to do a solo show. I'm going to be teaching a class tomorrow called Goal Setting and Taking Massive Action. So, as I'm putting the class together and getting the details of it, I really just wanted to go over it on the podcast today because I think that so many people can learn from goal setting and taking massive action. And it's just something that, I've always wondered, I've always sat back and I'm like, how do some realtors close 400 and 500 homes a year, and others close 100 homes a year, and there's some that can't close any homes a year? Like, what's the difference between those people? And like, I know somebody right now that I mastermind with weekly that closes 1,900 homes a year. And while I can't fathom that, I also probably 6 years ago couldn't fathom selling 150 homes a year. So I think this is a class just for everybody to, just reflect on and where you're at, and just, writing down some goals and seeing what you need to do next as far as just taking the proper steps to get where you want to go. And that's where I want to start with this, is just, getting to a spot where you know exactly where you want to go. I asked some agents, hey, what's your goal? And it's, I don't know. And, I don't think that's probably a good way to go about your business. And then there's others who, it's what's your goal? And it's, oh, I want to sell a lot of homes. And then the next question would be, well, what's a lot of homes? Well, I don't know. Well, that would be something that you'd like. How do you really know if you ever accomplished your goal? If your goal was just to sell a lot of homes, but you never defined what a lot of homes was. Is that 24 homes, 60 homes, 100 homes a year? That's something that you want to define. I recently went to lunch with an agent, and she had said, when I asked her this question, I said, what's your goals for 2023? And she said it in a way where, she thought they were small. And she said, well, it's not a lot, but I want to close 18 homes next year. And I looked at her and said, well, why is it 18? And she thought I was asking that because she thought I was going to think that that was a small number. And so she started going into like, oh, okay, well, I have kids and I have this. And, my husband's really the one that makes the, most of the income for the family. And I've got the 3 kids that I have to watch. And I just, so this is what I think I can do. And I looked at her and I said, that's awesome. Like, she clearly knew exactly what she wanted to accomplish. And it's no one's business to decide if that's if that's a lot of homes or not. That might not be enough for some people to reach their goals, and that might be more than other people to reach their goals. So, when she said this number and she started justifying why it was that number, I let her know, I said, that's just so cool that you know exactly the number you want to hit next year. And you told me the reason why you want to hit it. And I think that's also the next most important part. We're going to talk about this in today's podcast is why, why. And she told me why she wanted to reach this. And I thought, man, that's so important. She not only knows the number, she knows why. And it's going to be those whys that get you through those days where you don't actually want to do anything. So if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. I really think that that's a big one that people need to really understand. It sounds cliche. You've heard that probably 1,000 times. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. But it's true. I mean, if you don't have clear goals and where you're going, what do? You've got to have a direction daily that you're going. And that doesn't mean that you're not going to have some hiccups in the day, but you have to have a clear direction on where you say you want your life to go. And so what happens though is, life gets busy. So sometimes we write down these goals and then we're like, okay, life gets busy. So we have to make sure that we prioritize our goals in our daily routine. We have to start structuring our days so that we can get this stuff accomplished. So I have an app that I called you Streaks. So if you go on the App Store and you look up Streaks, you can put in goals that you're trying to accomplish every single day, whether it's like, get to the gym, eat healthy, maybe it's no alcohol. I have in mind that I need to call my leads every single day. I need to make my birthday calls to everybody on Facebook that says it's their birthday. It's just things that I need to do on a daily basis. And do I hit that every single day? Nope. But am I consistent? Yes. And so that Streaks app, you can just log in there and it kind of gamifies what you need to get done in a day. And then you can see what your percentages are throughout the year that you actually accomplished that. So I'd really look into something like that. Or you could just use a spreadsheet. I've also had times in my life where I've used spreadsheets and I have exactly what I have to get done that day. And these aren't go on buyer and, inspections and, write contracts. Those things are just going to get done no matter what. These are the things that I need to do daily to keep my life together, and live an enjoyable life, and also things that I need to do in my business that nobody's depending on me to do these. It's depending on myself. If I don't do these, my business doesn't grow. I think we need to be very specific with our goals. It needs to be down to it needs to be exactly what we want to accomplish. If it's a weight goal, what do we want our weight to be? If it's a financial goal, what's our finances need to be? If it's a relationship goal, what exactly do we want to accomplish? You might say, hey, 47 weeks out of this year, I want to go on a date night with my spouse. And you could just track that on a spreadsheet. And what's so cool about that is if you said, hey, that's a priority to me, is to go on a date night once a week with my spouse, and you track that and you said, if I did that 47 weeks out of the year, I feel like my relationship would be in a good spot, then put that on a spreadsheet and track it. And you could have one tab on a spreadsheet that has all the things that you want to do. And you could just go through every single day and look at it. And then you would know whether you're on the right track and where you're trying to go. So also what I think we need to talk about is accountability. And so accountability comes in a lot of formats. So I have a real estate coach that I pay to talk to almost weekly. Wednesdays at 1:00, we talk for 30 minutes. And not only do I tell him the goals for the year, but we have a spreadsheet where, he'll see if I'm hitting those numbers, and if I'm not, what we need to do differently. What I say I'm going to get done, we have to get on that call and talk about, did I do it? The real estate coach is almost the same as like a personal trainer. It's so easy to think of this stuff in fitness, because if we go to the gym, the personal trainer doesn't lift the weights for us so that we get the muscles. If that was true, we would just give that personal trainer money, have them lift the weights. If we got the muscle, that would be super simple. It's the same thing with coaching. The real estate coach is intended, or any accountability partner is intended to just hold you accountable to what you said you wanted to do. Hey, I want to do this. And did you do it? So you could have a real estate coach. You could have like a group of realtors or business owners that meets up and talks about it. So right now I just started a group. Tuesday morning, I have a few realtors that I know, and we meet up and we talk about what our goals are, what we were trying to accomplish that week. Did we hit those goals that week? If we did, great. What's the next one? If we didn't, why didn't we? And do we feel that the reason or the excuse was justifiable? And there are times where things are justifiable. Maybe someone passed away in your family, or, something bad happened, life happened. And you could look at that situation and say, hey, that was more important than my business goal this week. But let's say you say something that you find out, you say, hey, no, that actually wasn't, justifiable. I should have still hit my goal. Then the next thing is, hey, do you want to recommit to that next week? Like, do you want to recommit to that this week and get that? And it's okay if you say no. There's times where I've had goals and I've stopped and I said, you know what, that's not really what I want to accomplish anymore. And I think that's a great spot to be in when you say, hey, I was trying to hit something, and now that I'm this far down the road, I don't want to get there anymore. And don't get me wrong, that's not like it got hard and I don't want to get there anymore. This is like, it just clearly wasn't what you thought it was. So you're willing to stop. And another thing that I think we should talk about is just eliminating wasted time. And so as I'm teaching this class tomorrow, I'm just trying to come up with some frameworks. And I wrote down eliminate wasted time. And so now it's social media, and it's the radio, and it's the TV, and it's consumption. It's everybody's buying, like they're trying to get our time. They're trying to get our time for us. And I think what we have to do is we have to have goals, and we have to know that it's already hard enough to, have our relationships on point, have a morning routine where we take care of ourselves, get our work done. If you have kids, getting that done, going to church, if you go to church, getting to family events, going to friends' events and birthday parties. Like, there's already so much to do that is so important that we've got to figure out how to get rid of we've got to eliminate wasted time. That could be social media, like I said, movies, Netflix. Just there's so many things that I think we're doing, and I'm talking to myself, that if we stop doing that, we'd get so many years back on our life. And I think that's something that when we get older, we're going to look back on and wish that we actually had that time to do a little bit more. Now, don't get me wrong, I still have things that I love doing that Other people would look at it and say, hey, that's a waste of time. I don't ever want to feel like I'm getting in people's business as far as how they waste their time, because I waste my time my own way. I just think you need to be self-aware of what you're doing and does that get you to your goal. And if your goal is to have some time, to have downtime, to do fun things, then that's great. At least don't sit down at that time and say, oh man, I'm being lazy. Say, hey, I'm sitting down for 1 hour and that's my goal, is to have some downtime and I'm reaching my goal. And so just be purposeful is what the right word would be. So the purpose of a goal is to ensure that you are constantly reaching to get to the next level and ultimately getting what you want out of life. So I really want to justify like why we make goals. It's because if you want to be better, and it doesn't have to always be sell more homes. It could be that you want to donate more to charity, or your goal is to give more time to a charity, or your goal could be, I want to spend more time with loved ones. Like there's a lot of goals that don't have to do with selling homes. But here's my thought process. And I wrote this down as I'm preparing for this class tomorrow. I wrote, I don't know about you, but I don't live my life by chance. I live intentionally. Taking the proper actions is what takes you from being a dreamer to an achiever. And I don't want to be a dreamer. I don't want to be the guy who says, oh, I want to do this, but then in my daily habits, I have nothing that reflects that that's what I'm trying to accomplish. That's a dreamer. Someone who's like, oh, I want to sell this many homes. And then you look at my calendar and it's like, really? Like you don't show anything in your calendar that justifies that that's the goal that you would reach. That's a dreamer. That's not an achiever. That's what I don't want to be. And, I started off with, the podcast with this, and I really do think about it all the time, because I'll right now think of like agents out there that are closing so many transactions. And then I think of how many I'm closing. And I think, what are they doing differently? And I think one is they've mastered this whole time and not wasting time and being very purposeful. And I think they've just really dialed things down, and they've probably learned to say no to a lot of things that they've learned to say no to things that don't reach their goals. So proper goal setting will assist you in outlining specific actions. So that's the point of a goal. Now let's go through this. So when someone like goal setting to me is sitting down and saying like, this is what I want. And then after you say like, this is what I want, then I think the harder part that I think where most people stop is they'll just say like, hey, I want this. For example, let's use weight. Like I want to be, this weight. And then that's a goal. So all year they're just like, this is my goal. This is my goal. What you've got to do is you got to take that to the second tier. It's this is my goal. And then you got to say, almost any goal you have in life, you either have to eliminate something in your life or add something. So each day you either have to eliminate something you're doing or you have to add to it. So for example, if it was losing weight, you'd have to probably, what you'd have to get out of your schedule is probably eating bad, snacking at night, things like that. What you'd probably have to add is walking around the neighborhood more, going to the gym, swimming laps, things like that. So almost any goal usually is going to be eliminating a habit or adding a habit into your life. So, but where I like to start with this, and I think where my unique position is when I'm teaching a goal setting class is, the goal. So like when I'm talking to realtors, it usually comes down to their goal is to sell X amount of houses. And my question is why is it X amount of houses? Like, why do you want to close that? And I really want them to know the why, because I have to know my why. If I just come into my office every single day and say, I want to sell 150 homes this year, that's not very inspiring. It's just like, I want to sell 150 homes this year. I know why I want to sell that many homes, because the only reason I want to sell that many homes is because I've back-ended that math, because I've did some things with my finances that I figured out what I need to do as far as how many homes I have to close to not only run my business, run my personal life, and then how to have extra money so that I can enjoy my life and then also invest. So let's go over that right now. And this is gonna feel like it's going into a little bit of like a budgeting session, and I think it is. What I'm learning anymore is that there's a lot of people that are super confused on how to handle their finances or even know what's going on with their finances. And why I do know that is because, Dave Ramsey's had his show on for years, and he's almost always talking to the person who is trying to figure out how to save $500 in their savings account. So that's how I know that people are having a really hard time with how to handle their money. So this could be how to make more money or how to handle your money. So as we go into the section, this is going to be a little budgeting, but also I want to get to the point where the reason why we're doing this is so we know how many homes we have to sell. So for example, I think that you should either have a spreadsheet or some type of app that you're using. If you want to use a really cool app, you could use it's You Need a Budget, ynab.com. And this will really help you out. You could YouTube videos on how to do it. But what you're trying to figure out is what is your burn rate in your monthly household? So like, your mortgage payment, your car payment, your school loans, your credit card debts. And so you're really going from like, what are the basic necessities from my mortgage to my utilities to the food to the gas that in my car to my car payment to and those are just really like the needs. It's usually household, utilities, food, gas, car. Like those are usually your needs. Then it's the what I would call want wants. Want wants to me are always those, man, they sure do feel like a need, but they're not, like getting my haircut once a month. And, for ladies, it might be, getting your eyelashes and your eyebrows done. For me, it's a massage every, week or every 2 weeks, and getting my nails done, a manicure and a pedicure. You're being purposeful about like you're living a life by design. So you're saying, I need this much money to pay for the roof over my head, the utilities to keep my house running, pool service, landscaper, your car, your health insurance, and then all those wants, the things that make you feel good, making your quality of life better, the gym membership, all the things that you take care of yourself. And you want to get this on a spreadsheet or in an app where like, does this cost me, $6,000 to live? Does this cost me $12,000 to live? And why I say this isn't this kind of sounds like a budgeting conversation, but this is a live life by design conversation, because you could sit down and say, this is the life I want to live. Like you could say, I want to get a massage every single week, and I want to get a manicure and pedicure every single week, and I want to do this, and I want to do this. Like they can definitely not be needs and wants, but you say like, this is the lifestyle I want, and I'm going to go sell enough real estate to make this happen. So first you got to get to knowing that you've got to know exactly what we call your burn rate. Like this money is going to get burned every single month for me to live this life. It's important to know. So you right now listening to this, if you're a realtor, now that you know that overall number of what it costs your burn rate, now it'd be good if you have someone else in your household that brings in an income. Is what is their income? So let's say your burn rate is $100,000 a year, and your spouse makes $80,000. Well, you know that you need to make $20,000 a year just to cover your burn rate. Important to know. That's all we're trying to figure out with this right now is what is our burn rate in our household? What does anybody else in our household bring in if they have a job where they're not commission-based? And what do I got to do to cover the gap to just cover our burn rate? And we're going to go into another section next, which I think is more fun. And that's going to be on your luxuries. And so, but why is this important? Some realtors will say, whether I know all these numbers or not, I'm going to sell the same amount of real estate. And I would completely disagree with you. Like that's not how I've lived my life, not how I've designed my business. But I have talked to realtors who have said, Chris, whether I do all this, like I'm just going to sell the same amount of real estate. And I'd say, no, like you haven't figured out, you've been living life on defense. If you get on the offense and start designing it, you'll start knowing exactly what you need to go do as far as actions daily to bring in the income that you need to go live the life that you want. So remember, you're in a commission-based business where you can earn zero, which many realtors do, or you can make millions of dollars a year. And I know a lot of realtors who do this. So then after you figure out your burn rate, what I want you to do, so that was the burn rate was really like your needs, like you need this stuff. And then I do your wants. Those are the ones that feel like needs, but they're still wants. Then we're going to go to the extra level and we're going to say, now design your dream life. Like start saying like, hey, vacations, what do I want to do? So like, let's say you were like, hey, I want to make, I want to go on 2 vacations this year that cost $3,500 each. Let's just say that. Okay. So we got $7,000 a year now that we have to make just to go on vacations. So I believe if my math is correct, that's like $583.33 a month. Well, that's nice to know. Like you now know when you're doing your numbers for the year and you're saying, hey, I've got my burn rate, my needs and my wants. I've got now my dream life. I've got vacations I'm going on, and that's important to know so you can actually make your goals. Then what we want to do is we want to say, okay, well, what do we want to save after that so that we have money for retirement or putting money into buying rental properties? So let's say you're like, hey, I want to save, $30,000 a year that goes into a retirement account. Or let's say you're like, hey, I want to save $30,000 this year after all of this stuff so that I can buy an investment property, like a down payment for an investment property. Well, that would be about $2,500 a month that you need to save so that you look up at the end of the year and you have $30,000 to invest. So that's what we're trying to do now is just overall, this, like I said, this sounds budgeting, and it is. But this is burn rate, your needs, your wants, designing your dream life, vacations, then what do you want left over to invest? And so now you have this overall number. It could be lofty. Like you could be looking at this now and saying like, whoa, I've got to make now $220,000 a year to live this dream life. Well, that's so cool to know because it might it could worry you in a sense where it's like, hey, look, maybe you're not making that, but at least you now know to go live the dream you want to live. That's what you have to make. So once we have that number, now what's cool is we can figure out this, it's just a math equation. So we can figure this out. So what you want to do in your market is find the median sales price. Or if you have a long enough track record of selling real estate where you basically know what your average, sales prices and your average commission, you can figure this out. So step one is find the median sales price or in your MLS, or just if you have enough data where this, just figure out your math and say, what's my average sales price that I sell? Find the average co-broke. And as you've all noticed, like that average co-broke probably, I know in our markets went down over the last few years, but just figure out what your average co-broke is in your MLS. And that's what you would use as your number, and then work the math. Step three. So step one, find the median sales price. Step two, find the average co-broke. And step three, work the math. Like now you would say to live my burn, like to make enough money for my burn rate, to have my vacations, my retirement, or my investing money, I need to make X amount of dollars. Then you do your math and you divide this out. Now you can say like, this is what I have to do to make enough money to live my dream life. And so, here's a concept that I think is interesting. So let's say you wrote this all down, your dream life and your investment money. Let's say it came out to $350,000 a year. And, you have to now be the CEO and the employee. So when you're developing this plan, you're almost like the CEO. You're putting a plan together. But if you're the only person in your company right now, you're putting a plan together, but now you've got to go be the employee. So you put a plan together like a CEO. Now you got to put those proper steps on like, what do I have to do every single day to actually accomplish this? Like I have to be the employee or the salesperson for my company to go accomplish this. What's really interesting is how so many realtors were previously in a job where they made X amount of dollars. And that was a boss saying, hey, you need to do this daily for this many hours to get this much money. And it was so simple for them to just go to work for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week for, 49 weeks out of the year. And for the company to give them a, $68,000 salary a year to do that. But the second that we have the same opportunity to actually develop a plan like a CEO, and then we have to be the employee and execute that, and we can make unlimited amounts of money, we get all squirrely. But like so many people will go to a job and just trade their hours for these dollars, which is fine. But like the second you could do that for yourself and make so much more money, we realize we can't do it because a lot of realtors, we got into the business because we wanted time freedom and financial freedom. And we have a lot of people have all the time in the world, but they have no financial freedom. And it's because they don't know how to, create a plan like this and then go and say, hey, I have to execute this daily. And don't get me wrong, I'm not perfect. I'm just consistent. So there's days where I'm like, I do not want to do this, and I don't, but I'm consistently doing this. So that's what makes it work. So remember, you're the CEO and you're the employee. So what you want to do is you've got to start now back ending this math and figure out like, what do I have to do? So let's say your goals after you did your burn rate and your dream life, you found out you had to make a certain amount of money. Let's say that you did the math and that's, hey, I got to close, 24 homes a year, let's say. So you're like, okay, I've got to close 2 transactions a month. And what do I have to do to close 2 transactions a month? So you want to start putting a a schedule together of like, how would a realtor close 2 transactions a month? And then you want to back in that math, and you want to back in that routine and figure it out. So like for me, I've got a personal routine. Like in the morning, I read my Bible, eat my breakfast, go to the gym, do a pull plunge most days in the winter. And so that's my morning routine. That's what I do daily. Like that's my schedule. That's how I keep myself together. I always say I've got to wake up in the morning and put myself together. When I put myself together early in the morning, I can then go offer value to the world. So you want to have a morning work routine. So after your morning personal routine, you want to come in with a work routine. You want to reach out to maybe some contacts, every single day, like past clients, make your birthday calls, send out birthday cards, do some form of lead generation. This class isn't really to go over, or not this class, but this podcast isn't really to go over what form of lead generation. Just pick a form of lead generation, and you've got to do that, every single day. Weekly routines, maybe it's plan open houses, prep for appointments, update active sellers. And then your monthly routines, review financials, send out your mass emails or your videos, mail out your postcards to your network. These are things that you're doing. You're making a schedule. You know all your financials now that you've got to make to reach your goals. And you did the math on how many homes you have to sell to reach and live your design life. And now you're putting together a schedule and you're saying, these are the things I have to do every single day so that I can say that I did what I needed to do to live my dream life. And so let's go over now. So I want you to be specific about your goals. I want you to set goals that can be easily measured. And that's where you're setting goals based on your finances. And then you want to measure it. So I measure my stuff almost daily. There are days that I miss, but I'm tracking my numbers daily to see, am I hitting these numbers or not? And then you just got to remember, every single day when you wake up, your willpower is getting depleted. So you wake up, let's act as if you're like a phone. Like let's say when you go to sleep, it's like you plugging in your phone. You wake up in the morning, your phone's at 100%, you're at 100%. As you go through the day, your willpower is just getting depleted. So you want to make sure you prioritize the things that you're doing where you have the most energy to get the stuff that's done that's a priority. So for me, I get up and I go straight to myself first. I go to reading my Bible, going to the gym, doing my pool plunge. Then I come home and then I do a team meeting with my office. And then by that time, I want to sit with my wife for about 30 minutes. We just sit down and eat, we drink coffee in the morning for about 30 minutes. Then I go back into the office and then I start doing what I know I need to do. And as I'm going throughout the day, I'm going from 100% battery as I start reading my Bible in the morning. I get to the gym and I leave there and I'm probably about 87%. I go home and do a team meeting on about, 57%. And you could just see it as it's going throughout the day, it's going down. And then I finally get to a point by about 9:30 p.m. where I'm almost at zero. And that's when I got to go to sleep. And I plug back in my phone because it's at zero. I've got to take a sleep because I'm at zero. And we start again. So what you want to do is you want to make sure you're prioritizing your day, that you're getting what has to be done early in the morning. Now, what happens all the time, here's what happens. Well, I had to go on an inspection today. Well, I had to write a repair, I had to write repairs on a house. And, I had to show this client 4 homes, or, I had to go here. And what I want you to note is, did that get you to the next level? And so now I want to go over what I call new money and old money. And new money is every single day you need to be spending a certain amount of energy on new money. And then you want to be spending energy on old money. And old money is anybody that you've put under contract. Any pending deal, that's old money. Because if you just focus for 30 days on your one pending deal, once that closes, you then start working on new money again. And then you're looking up and you're like, why am I only closing 8 homes a year? And it's usually because people are focused, when they put a deal together, they're focused all their energy on that old money. And they never go do daily the new money to make more money to bring it into the company. So like I have a rule that I've got to go into my office every day and make new money. That means I got to reach out to people. I got to follow up with leads, find new money, and take care of old money. And I have some office staff that helps me take care of old money. But that's just a philosophy that I live by when I come into my office. So, but the goal is that you want to prioritize your day, that you realize that you are running out of energy throughout the day. So start focusing on getting some really important stuff with new money done early. So that, and you're always like, you're always going to show up to the inspection if you have to. You're always going to go show homes if you have to. You're just going to do that because your name's on the line. Like, people don't usually get a buyer and then there's like, no, I'm not going to show you homes, but they will get a buyer. And then the next day say, hey, I'm not going to follow up with 20 of my past leads or follow up with 5 of my past clients because I got a buyer today. So you got to figure out how to get the new money activities done that day and still go on that inspection and still go meet the appraiser, all that kind of stuff. So another thing that I wrote down as I'm preparing for this class is, just because everyone is demanding your time doesn't mean you have to give it to them. Learning the art of staying focused can take you from the average to great. And I think that everybody needs to learn how to say no more. And that is always actually been fairly easy for me. I know certain personalities that is much harder, but we got to learn to say no to things that we don't feel that are getting us towards our goals. But here's the deal. If you don't know all those financials and how many homes it takes to sell to reach those, financials, and then the daily activities that you have to do to reach those homes sold, then it's easy to say yes to everything. But when you have clear goals on where you want to go, it's much easier to say no, because I look at things now and say, like, for example, I have lenders that call me all the time. Hey, Chris, I see the production that you're doing and want to know if I could meet and take you to coffee. And I'm scripted with this. If I ever answer the phone for someone like that, I'll say, do you know what? Thank you so much for calling me. And I really appreciate that. But I don't spend as much time on my hobbies and I don't spend enough time with my wife. So I couldn't do that because I would need to give that time to them before I gave it to you. And I'm telling you, that stops the conversation right there. Like, when you tell somebody, if I had that 45 minutes, I'd be spending it with my wife. So the answer is no. They don't go much further. But remember, you can just say no to people. And that's in a lot of things we're doing. Like, I look at things and say, like, hey, if that's not getting me towards my goals. So here's the deal. People can think like, oh, well, does Chris never have any fun? And the answer is, yeah, I have a lot of fun, but like, it's intentional. Like, I know in my calendar what I wanted to do and I go do it, but it's not just like, oh, Chris, do you want to go to lunch tomorrow? And the answer is just yes. It usually is defaulted no. And because I have a schedule that I have to keep up with. And if I really want to meet with that person because I love them or I like them and I want to go meet with them, then I would say, hey, I can't go then, but let's put it in the schedule for this time. Then I'm being very proactive. I'm being on the offense and not defense with my time. So some things I think we should also look into, I wrote down for this class that I'm teaching tomorrow, is boundaries. It is best to set boundaries even with your family, especially if you work at home. I think that we have to set these boundaries. Like, when you close a door in your house, say, hey, like, for these 2 hours, I'm not the garbage taker outer. I'm not fixing this. I'm not doing that. This isn't for chit chat. Because you think, like, if you went to a job where you were, a school teacher, like, you can't be a school teacher and just be chatting with people all day long. Your wife can't just call you and be like, hey, can you come home and take out the trash? Or, hey, you know what? Can you do this real quick? If you were at a job and you're doing something that takes your focus, you have to do that for that time. And then you come home and then you can do that stuff. So if you work at home, it's very easy to, mix this home and work life all at the same time. And I have a room in my house that's my office, and it's even where I do my podcast, and that's my room. Like, that's my office. I shut my door, and during those times that I'm there, it's not for cleaning. It's not for, it's not for doing any chores. It's just to go in there and do work. Like, I work at home because I like doing that, but you have to set up boundaries, especially with your family. And if you have kids and things like that, I don't have kids, so I don't know if I could do that if I did have kids. But if you don't feel like you can do this, then you might need to rent an office. Like, if you feel that renting an office would help set those boundaries so that you can go crush it and you could, provide for your family better, then you might want to look into like a Regis or something like that, where you can set those boundaries. But that's really the class that I'm teaching tomorrow. So I'm just so thankful that, I was able to do this podcast. I just wanted to share my thoughts on how I'm prepping for this class. I'm still putting it all together right now. I'm almost finished, but I was just like, you know what? I just want to put this in a podcast form so that all my listeners can hear how I structure this. And This is how, there's a few things that I did that I guess I could give you some examples before I end, but like there was I remember about 2.5 years ago, I had told my wife, I said, hey, I want to buy like 14 more rental properties. And like, it was a pretty wild goal, like when I wrote this down. And so, but I want to take you back to, this is how I did it. So when I have people say, Chris, how do you own these rental properties, or how do you have that? I just look at it and I say, this is how my framework is. So what the class I'm teaching is what I did. So I know what my burn rate is in my household. I know what it cost me to, live my life, my needs. I know what it costs to have my wants. Like I'm very wanty, just like probably anybody else. So I know my needs. I know my wants. I know how many, I went on 17 vacations this year and have a few more planned before the end of 2022. I had a budget in those. So that was my needs, my wants, my vacations. And then I knew I needed a lot of money for down payments to buy, 16 more rental properties. It was a pretty big feat. And so I broke that down, and I knew clearly monthly what I had. Like, I knew monthly what I had to make, or let's say even I knew yearly what I had to make. And then I started doing that. Like, what's my average sales price? What's my average co-broke? And I worked the math backwards. And when you see that number, you can sometimes be like, whoa, but I only had two options that I could take there. I had two options. I could lower my goals and say, I don't want that. Or I could say, I've got to up my output. I got to up my output and make more money to reach my goals. So that's all I could do. I could lower my goals, or I could raise my work, like how I was going to actually produce income to reach my goals. And I looked at that and said, I don't want to lower my goals. Like, I got to have those needs. Those are needs. I want those wants, and I want to take that many vacations, and I still want to have all this money left over after taxes that I can go buy a lot of properties. And so I said, I'm going to step up. So instead of lowering, like, I got the same feeling that everyone else gets. I looked at that and thought, ooh, that's a lot. Like, but what's cool about it is I knew what it was. I knew what I had to do. It was a lot. And I decided I'm not going to lower my goals. I'm going to up my discipline. I'm going to up who I am. I can be better at what I do. And I went that direction. It was so cool. Like, to know that that was accomplished was a great one. I remember not that long ago, I had a goal that before I went out of town to Huntington Beach, I wanted to lose 17 pounds. And I made this, me and my wife's friend, we made this, not really a bet, but I said, hey, I'm going to be this weight by this date. And I think it was like, I don't remember the exact details now, but I think it was like not even 2 months away. And I said, I wanted to lose 17 pounds. Well, I just went back and the same thing. I saw, like, I weighed myself on the scale and I said, I want to weigh this much. So I knew the difference. I divided it by how many days until that vacation. And I knew how much weight. It was like 0.3 pounds a day that I had to lose. And that seems odd, but I was in no delusion. That wasn't just a pie in the sky, like, oh, I want to do this. Like, I knew when someone said, like, what are you trying to do? It was, I want to be this weight. And if they said, what do you need to do daily? I knew what I needed to do daily. And then I got on the scale daily to see where I was at and am I matching? And if I wasn't matching that, I had to up the intensity, because I could only up the intensity or get to the end of the goal where I didn't accomplish it. So here's the deal. I don't accomplish all my goals. I'm just giving you some framework for how I've accomplished some really cool ones. And so I hope that this podcast really helped you out. I was in a mastermind not that long ago, and how we ended it, there was like some heavy producers in this mastermind. It was a pretty cool one. And we were talking about implementation, and that's a really important work, because we were trying to figure out, why is it that some realtors or business owners succeed at such a high level and then others don't? And what we really found out is that it was the word implementation. It was when people hear something, knowledge, when they get an idea or they hear what they need to do, there's some that go and implement so quickly. And there's some that just think about it for a year, 5 years, their whole life. And so my goal for you is that you would take this right now and that you would just go implement it. Like, schedule some time on your calendar. The next step I would like you to do is go block out 2 hours on your calendar. Like right now, block 2 hours on your calendar, 2 hours out on your calendar sometime this week, where you say, I want to start sitting down and figuring this out. Like, what are my finances? What vacations do I want to take? How much money do I want to save to invest in my retirement? And then start doing that math and breaking it down. And then if you get to the end of that 2 hours, go longer if you need to. Or if you've got a busy life, then just say, hey, at the end of this 2 hours, I'm not done. But here, I'm going to block off another 2 hours at this time to continue this project because it's so serious. So implementation is such a key thing to getting anything done. You can have all the knowledge in the world, but until you implement, nothing's going to happen. But hey, guys, thank you so much for letting me just really process this all. Like I said, I got that class tomorrow that I'm teaching. Just wanted to do a freestyle right now where I just prep for it. And as I did, I just wanted to get it out there to the world. And I hope everybody learns something from this. And if you have any questions, I want you to reach out. I hope you guys all enjoy your day.